This is Your Anxiety Toolkit, episode number 74.
Welcome to Your Anxiety Toolkit. I'm your host, Kimberly Quinlan. This podcast is fueled by three main goals. The first goal is to provide you with some extra tools to help you manage your anxiety. Second goal, to inspire you. Anxiety doesn't get to decide how you live your life. And number three, and I leave the best for last, is to provide you with one big, fat virtual hug. Because experiencing anxiety ain't easy. If that sounds good to you, let's go.
Welcome back. It is so wonderful to be here with you today. I just love you guys. Let me just start with that. This is just so wonderful. I was just thinking, I'm going to share with you a lot about my day today, but was just thinking today about how brave you guys are and how courageous you guys are. And I'm just so honored and blessed to be here with you on this journey. And so I just wanted to start with that. The feedback you guys give me, the reviews, the group members in the Facebook group, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate how engaged you guys are with our community, the CBT school community, and how kind you are to me and in your feedback. So I am just really, really grateful. I just want to start and make sure we leave a bunch of space for that. Now, in addition to that, I just want to start this episode with a really deep breath. Right. And just give you guys an opportunity and myself to just let go of what we don't need in this moment as we move on into this podcast episode. And let go of anything that isn't ours to hold. Let go of anything that's not yours. You know, we don't want to be carrying other people's stuff around with us if possible. We definitely don't want to be carrying around what we think they think about us either. So I do encourage us to just set an intention with this podcast episode and just do our best to let go of anything that doesn't serve us. Release any tension that we may be holding in our shoulders or our hands. Soften them if you can. And then let's just do this, shall we? Okay. Before we get going, I want to make one quick announcement. I have been contacted by someone who is creating a movie about OCD called What If? And What If is a collaborative film project by Robin Robley Strauss. And it's his senior thesis as a project for Hampshire College. And what he's doing is he's documenting experiences of living with OCD. And the film will focus on the voices of those who have OCD and the experts, the people who treat OCD. And the cool thing is you guys get to be involved if you would like. So if you'd like to be involved in this amazing creation, go to whatifocdmovie.com and you can learn how to be a part of this project and by sharing your story or you could even donate if you don't want to share your story. But I just wanted to share that because I thought it was very cool. I don't usually share information about outside, projects so much, but this is something that I met this person at the OCD conference and I just thought it was so great. So if you're interested, go to that link. I will have the link in the podcast notes. And that's an opportunity. Often people do reach out and they say to me, how can I share my story? How can I get involved with being an advocate? And that is a really great way to do it. All right. So let's move on to a challenge that I am presenting to you. I would like for you to try this. And this is something that I experimented with today. And I have to say, it was fabulous. This was so eye-opening and so wonderful to really take some time, slow down, and actually do a practice of mindfulness in a way that I've never done before. Okay. So I have been dared multiple times by a very good friend, someone who is quite spiritual, to do what is called a date day. And a date day is where you take yourself out on a date, just me, nobody else, no partner, no loved one, no lover. It's just where you take yourself out on a date. And the only thing you do is you follow your intuition. What you do is you check in with yourself. I'm not talking about your psychic intuition. I'm talking about just listening to your body and responding in that way. So you might listen to what tastes you want to taste. You might listen to what experiences or what things you want to see and feel and touch and experience. And you do that thing until you feel the urge to want to do something else. And then you go ahead and you do that. So you're really just following your body. You're following your experience. You're following your senses. But here is the catch. As you do this, you have to catch and be aware of any self-judgment, right? That's the catch. That's the thing. That's the reason we're really doing this. So I'm not going to lie, I've been pretty overwhelmed, and we just got back from Australia and I'm not sleeping very well and work's very busy. And I basically told my husband to pack the kids up in the car and take them away for the day. And I just needed one day to myself. And I never do that. I very rarely ask for that type of thing. And of course, he was wonderful and agreed and took the kids off for an adventure day. And I got to be alone, and I use this as an opportunity to do what I call the non-judgment day date. And I used a hashtag on Instagram and Facebook, hashtag non-judgment day date, right? Or date day. So that being said, I had a shower, they left, and so my day began. Now, for those of you who are thinking about practicing this, you don't have to have a whole day. You could even just have a couple of hours. That's totally fine. But I had the whole day. And so what I did was I used this as an opportunity to practice as much self-care as I could. But none of that was based on two key words. I was not to do anything that I felt I, quote unquote, should do. I didn't engage in anything that I, quote unquote, shouldn't do, right? So I didn't get caught up in the shoulds and the shouldn'ts. I just went with what felt good, what sounded okay. I didn't get caught up in trying to make it perfect. I was really staying very mindful of any thoughts that came into my mind. And I ultimately challenged myself to having an entire day where I just listened. And it was incredible what I learned, because I do consider myself pretty good at mindfulness. I feel I'm very gentle with myself most of the time. I'm mostly very kind with myself. I'm not, I don't do a lot of judgment, but what I was shocked at was how often the should word came up, right? I'll share with you, I went and got my hair done, right? And then I was like, you know what? I really would love to go to the mall, but I was hungry. I had checked in with myself and I was hungry. And what I noticed was my brain was revving to say, go straight to the mall because you'll save gas. And what was shocking to me is I kept checking in with myself on what do I actually want to do? And I wanted to go home. I wanted to go home and have something to eat, even though it wasn't lunchtime. It was 11:15, I think, and I was ready for lunch. So true to my commitment, I disregarded the story, the should story, the judgmental story that I obviously tell myself all the time, right? And I know being good with money and all those things are really important, and being a good person is really important. But it made me realize how habitual I have become at doing what I believe the story should look like, right? And so I came home and I checked in with myself. I didn't judge myself for wanting to have lunch early. I didn't count any calories. I didn't, plan what I should or shouldn't have. I just checked in with myself, opened the fridge, and I gave myself permission to eat whatever felt and sounded good. So a part of that too is to notice in how many areas we judge ourselves and we tell ourselves a story. What we should eat, what we shouldn't eat, what we should drink, what we shouldn't drink, what we should drive, how we should drive, when we should drive, in what steps should we drive, what kind of emotions should we have as we do all these things. Because sometimes we're telling ourselves, this should be fun, right? Now, I actually noticed quite a lot that I was having a lot of should statements about how I should be feeling about this day. You should be relaxing, or you should be so over the moon for having this day. You should be grateful. You should be, happy, joyful. But the truth is, during some of the moments, I wasn't happy. I was missing my family, or I was bored, or I was, having an array of emotions like we do. And I think that that's another really important thing that I learned, and I want you guys to take a look at, is to become more mindful around what you tell yourself regarding your emotions, right? Because the truth is, we are judging all day. Even when we're super mindful, it's incredible how just societal stories and narratives and rules set us up to self-judge. So it is almost 7 p.m. now, and I feel like my non-judgment date has been incredibly inspiring to me, and has given me a new level of motivation to be so careful about the stories that we get caught up in, right? To be so careful around observing thoughts instead of just going on autopilot. Because the truth is, even though I know this is a silly example, I could have so easily just booked it to the mall and disregarded what I actually wanted, right? Just because of a story, a should statement. That's it. Just because of that. I didn't do any harm by coming home an extra 5 minutes out of the way. And I think that our work is to catch that. Now, in addition, as I reflect on this day, what I also learned, and I'm wondering if this is true for you, and the reason I want you, and I'm challenging you to take yourself out on a date, is to explore the thoughts and stories you have, or you experience or hear when you practice self-care or engage in pleasure. Because the truth is, I'm sure for you, I can almost be very certain that there are some really messy stories that we have around self-care, applying self-care, giving ourselves and receiving pleasure. We've trained ourselves to reject that, right? And so when, as I said, as I reflected, and I consider myself, like I said, to be someone who's pretty kind to themselves most of the time, even relaxing and doing nothing felt hard. And it's always felt hard for me. I'm going to be honest about that. That's always been very hard for me. But I experienced it as hard. I experienced doing nothing as somewhat painful, not compared to extreme pain, of course. And I don't want to take away anybody who has extreme pain, but, doing nothing can be really painful for people who have anxiety about that, or have a lot of judgment around that, a lot of should statements. So I do really want you guys to look at that and look at that pleasure piece and that self-care piece. So that being said, I wanted to share with you my experiment today, and I want to challenge you to find a time this week where you separate some time where just yourself, take yourself out on a date, whether you go to a museum, you go to the mall, you stay home, you take a walk, And I want you to get so in touch with your senses, these amazing 5 senses that you have. I want you to lean towards the things that bring you pleasure and joy or, interest and curiosity. It doesn't have to be joy. And I want you to use that as an opportunity to practice non-judgment. I can't tell you how eye-opening it was. I can't tell you how much I have learnt today about myself, about my environment, about my relationship to my environment, and about the society that I live in, right? So please do it. And if you would like, just, share it and tag me on Instagram or Facebook, or just, shout me out. Let me know how it went and what you're doing and what you gave yourself permission to do. Now, one last thing to talk about. If you have significant amount of anxiety already, this is going to be hard, because often when we have anxiety, we're often afraid of losing control. So I'm just going to say that again, because that's the big piece, right? That's another of a big piece, I should say, which is when we have anxiety, the common experience of anxiety, whether you have generalized anxiety or panic disorder or OCD or social anxiety or any of the anxiety disorders, trauma, we get really caught up in losing control and losing safety and being untethered. And this date day can actually trigger that off. But that's a good thing. We want to lean towards losing control a little bit or a lot. We want to really work at allowing ourselves to go right up to the edge of losing control. Then ultimately that's an exposure, right? That's a part of exposure and response prevention. So I wanted to just make sure I brought that up. If that feeling or sensation or that fear comes up in you, honor it. Lean into it, listen to it, hear what it has to say. Again, where's the judgment in this? It's probably saying you shouldn't, you can't, bad things will happen if you do. And this is the good stuff, you guys. We have to lean into that stuff, right? That's what this is all about. It's what, the work I do in my private practice is all about, letting go of control, letting go of certainty, letting go of the safety, you always using the safety button. And so this is another great opportunity that I challenge you to try, because so much personal development can come from it. So I'm not going to go on anymore. I just wanted to share this little experiment that I did and that I found to be so incredibly helpful. It's kind of like going to the gym, but for your non-judgmental muscle, right? Because a lot of us have a very weak non-judgmental muscle, but their judgment muscle is like bulked up on steroids. And we have to shift that dynamic. We have to give ourselves actual allotted times where we lean in and really practice the skill of non-judgment. So have a wonderful week, you guys. I have a couple of really cool episodes coming up. Some that are going to be deeply personal to me. And so please do stick around and keep an eye out for those, because we are going to hit some vulnerability limits over here at CBT School. So keep an eye out for those. And again, I'm just so honored to be here with you. I'm so honored to have this time to spend with you. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. Signing off. Have a great day.
Please note that this podcast or any other resources from cbtschool.com should not replace professional mental health care. If you feel you would benefit, please reach out to a provider in your area. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for supporting cbtschool.com.